Joey Bosa versus Derek Carr. This is good. This is good, John. Because here's the thing. I think Derek's good enough to play well against the Chargers. And the Chargers are clearly good.
And Joey's the star.
And Joey's a star and Derek's a star.
Yeah, Joey's the better player. And I think to start the week, and he's not factually wrong, but going into the week, Derek was saying this has been our home game, our 9th home game my entire career. And we expect it to be the same, basically. Like, he talked shit during the week in a non-super aggressive, but, like, that's a comment that I'm sure the Chargers coach said, like, fuck these guys.
Yeah.
Even he's right. There were more Raider fans there than Charger fans. No one's arguing that. But if you're Joey Bosa, you go, well, fuck you. Like, you don't think, like, oh, yeah, we'll just lay over. They just get to have the home game. And, like, the knock on Derek as a player, I think what Joey Bosa, and you say this a lot, like, when you talk to college guys, and all you got to do is watch a college player. They don't go as viral, like, obviously, when NFL guys get the podium, but a lot of college players, when they get to the podium, and I think young NFL guys are this, if you truly listen, like, to a non-quarterback, they are reiterating a lot of things that have probably been hammered to them, especially if it's a Thursday or Friday, on Wednesday and Thursday, that day in the meeting or practice. So they are reiterating what the coach told them. If you don't think Joey Bosa was just reiterating what his head coach is also his defensive coordinator, who is, let's face it, like Brandon Staley now, is he on the short list of like one of the better defensive coaches in the league? Like, he had the number one defense last year.
I think he's a good head coach.
Disciple.
I think they made a good hire, John.
Yeah, I do too.
And by the way, where was he before he was with the Chargers?
He was Rams defensive coordinator.
I'm sorry, where was he before he was
with Rams? Fangio. Yeah, he's a Fangio
in the AFC West.
So So he knows him very well. Now, I'm not saying that Joey couldn't have come up with this on his own with watching film, and I'm sure he did. He's been there long enough now to be enough game plans. Gus Bradley was his defensive coordinator. But you can't convince me that that's not how they talked all week. Like, their game plan, we hit this guy, and they were blitzing the shit out of him. He'll fold. And I still think, like, Derek's playing the best of his career. Like, he's an excellent player right now. Like, I think he's probably somewhere between like 7 to 10 right now in the NFL. Like, he's a really good starting quarterback. But his one flaw, his true flaw, is I think consistently, if you got a guy coming right at him, and this always separates the guys that get the most respect in the NFL. And even Tom doesn't like, if a guy's coming at Tom like in 2021, he's not as likely to just sit there and get peppered. That's not his thing. And I'm not saying a lot of guys do it. But to win big in the big games in December and January, playoff games, you got to be willing to sit there and take a lick. And that is what people in the NFL, like his one major red flag is, because it's not talent, it's not ability to make the throws, it's not football IQ, it's obviously not character or anything. Like, I think he has one red flag right now, and they go, if it gets tough physically and he's getting hit, he'll fold. And that's exactly what Joey said.
Yeah, that's what Joey said, and that's clearly the scouting report. And I think going back to, his draft time, I think that was a question about him.
That was the biggest knock.
I think he can. That, and he really hadn't played in that many big games. Like, they played SMU, Margus Hunt. You remember that guy who was like 6'8"? They got after
Grixing drafted him like top second round.
And how many Pro Bowls?
0.
And SC, and Derek was hurt for the SC game in the Vegas Bowl. But I actually don't totally buy it. Like, I think it's a legitimate coaching point, and clearly the Chargers know what they're doing. But what I mean is, I do think you can hit Derek, and Derek can still have a good game. I think he has taken another step as a player.
Well, he was. He battled through that game and put them in position. They were down a score.
I don't worry about that with him. And part of it is I think he's got a lot of weapons on his team. Like, I think there's plays to be made, and I think he's got help. I don't see him like cowering. And even though the image of him going down with that football, but Manning used to just fall down. Both of them used to just fall down in the pocket. It's a bad image, but I don't think he's soft. I think he can take a hit, pop up, play.
But it can't be one of the best players in the league. And if you know the way the Bosa's talk, like a quote reads a lot different than it sounds coming out of his mouth. But he said it. And yeah, I think a lot of times players, a lot of defensive players, give you a good insight to be like, what do you think the main 3 or 4 bullet points are when they walk into the defensive team meeting on Wednesday?
And until the head and the body will die?
just the overview before we're even getting schematics, just basically keep an eye on this guy, hit this motherfucker, and watch out for this. Just some 3 big themes. It's pretty clear that that's a big theme. Now, the Chiefs don't have that ability, right? There are 2 of the teams in the division, though, do. The Broncos, that game was actually tighter than it, I think people think when you see the final score 23-7. It was a tie game for like at least a half. And they're just a physical team, and clearly the Chargers are a physical team.
I don't think the Broncos are very good.
No, but I'm just talking about the defensively. Like, they have enough power on defense to just hit Derek. And just as as we get in as the season goes, like this week, they're playing the Bears. I mean, Khalil Mack, Roquan Smith, like they got some guys that will hit you, right? So it's just something that doesn't mean, in a couple weeks, do they play the Browns this year? No, he avoids him. Just something to keep an eye on.